So most of us have done this, some definitely more than others. Whether we're stressed, we're bored, we're sad, we need a pick-me-up, and what do? We spend money. But there are two main problems with this. One, the mood boost is usually short-lived, and two, it can also be addicting. So once that initial high of shopping wears off, you might be compelled to shop again, which continues the cycle. Now, we can't always control how we feel, but the one thing we can control is what we do with these feelings. So in today's video, we are going to look at different ways to overcome emotional spending. But as usual, if you are new here, welcome. I create videos on different personal finance topics. So if you're looking for tips on how to improve your financial picture, do consider subscribing below. The first thing you can do to overcome emotional spending is to block certain websites, which will help reduce the temptation. Now, most people are familiar with different settings that you can put on your computer or your devices to block certain websites, and parents will often use these as a way to prevent their children from going to certain sites. But you do not have to be a parent to block a site. You can actually block any website you want by simply going into your settings on your computer or your device. Now, every device is different, but you can usually access this area by going to your privacy settings. And once you are there, you just simply type in the address of any website that you do not want to go to, that you do not want to access. And this is so great if you have a problem with online shopping. Now, of course, this isn't entirely foolproof because you can't block every single site online, but if there are certain retailers that you tend to go to first or often, you can definitely block these, which can help curb some of that temptation. So if you're online and you're emotional and you see something that you want to buy, the fact that you have to leave the site, go into your settings, type in a code in order to unblock the site, a lot can happen in that time that could really help you think, and you can really consider whether or not you really need to make this purchase. And another thing you can do if you're feeling brave is you can have like your partner, your roommate, or somebody else you trust control the password to your privacy settings. So in order to gain access to certain sites, this person would have to put in the code which only they know. And I know that sounds a bit extreme, but if you have a serious problem with emotional online shopping, this can be an excellent way to stop and keep more of your money. It's also important to know your trigger and understand which emotions drive your spending. This is different for everyone. For some people, it's when they're sad. For other people, it's when they're bored and they're looking for something to do. And if you don't know, think back to the last time that you made an impulse buy and try to remember how you were feeling in that moment. Now, sometimes we make impulse buys just because we see something we want to buy it, we get it, and it has absolutely nothing to do with emotions. But thinking back to how you felt when you've made certain purchases, it can really help you realize whether or not some of your spending has been driven by emotions. Did you have an argument with somebody and you wanted to clear your head, or maybe you were having a bad day for another reason and you just wanted to feel good? And this is a really good exercise because if you can figure out what drives this type of spending, the next time you feel this way, you can then consciously think of other ways to deal with the emotion. Sometimes you really just need a distraction or another way to boost your mood. And what's really interesting is the reason why a lot of people like to shop when they're feeling down is because the act of shopping, it actually releases dopamine, which are brain chemicals that can help us feel better. However, music, listening to music that you enjoy, that also releases dopamine. So the next time you're feeling down, put on some music and dance around because that might help you feel better. The next thing you can do is get support. And I know it may sound a bit silly or extreme, but having someone that you can call on, someone who can support you when you are on the verge of spending money emotionally, that can make a huge difference. Some people like to deal with their problems alone, and that's perfectly okay. But if you talk to someone and you share your struggles and let them know what you're trying to overcome, that can also provide some accountability. So talk to someone who you trust, let them know what you're going through, and see if you can call them up or talk to them whenever you're feeling the temptation to spend. And this is a great support because this person, they can distract you until that urge to spend passes, or they can even be there to just remind you of your goals, which can help you stay focused. And depending on how severe of a spending problem you have, you might even want to have 2 or 3 people lined up. That way you don't overwhelm one person. It's really a good idea to have a list of your financial goals in your wallet, and I really encourage placing this list next to your debit cards or your cash. And this is such a good idea because, overspending, it can really prevent us from hitting some of our financial goals, or it can make it harder for us to hit our goals. But having frequent reminders can really help us stay on track. So whatever your goals, I really suggest just writing them down on a sheet of paper, taking that paper, folding it, placing it inside your wallet next to your cash or next to your debit card, or you can even go a step further and you can even wrap this paper around your debit cards or cash. So each time you're tempted to spend and you go into your wallet, you are forced to look at this paper, which also forces you to make a decision as to whether or not that purchase is worth delaying some of your goals. It's also important that you set a budget. Now, I have to be clear, the ultimate goal of this video is to stop emotional spending. However, I do believe in taking baby steps. So if you're just starting to curb this behavior, sometimes the urge can be too strong to resist. And one thing I've observed about emotional spending is that sometimes it's not so much how much a person spends, it's more so the act of shopping that makes them feel better. So some people will feel better whether they are spending $300 or they're spending $50. So if you absolutely have to spend to take the edge off, set aside a weekly splurge budget, something small, maybe like $5 or $10. And when you feel the urge, take that money and go to a low-cost store, even if it's the dollar store, and see what you can buy. But again, the goal is to control or stop emotional spending. So don't immediately go to this tip. In fact, I have this tip last for a reason. Do the other tips first, and hopefully you will not have to use this one. So there you have it. Those are my suggestions on different ways to overcome emotional spending. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any other tips that you would like to add, please list them below. And of course, if you haven't already and you like money topics, do consider subscribing below. On this channel, we talk a lot about how to save money, but also a few other evergreen tips to really improve your financial outlook. So if you like videos like that, I post every weekend and sometimes during the week. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in a few days.